Hey, it's Ben here from the Strength Factory and welcome to Factory Knowledge, my weekly video series where I bring you all things related to action sports performance. This week I'm going to talk to you about the Landmine Press and what it is, why it could be a really valuable exercise for you and how to actually apply this exercise in your training so you can get stronger if you're doing your sport. So, many of you are going to be restricted in overhead positions. Most people who come and see me at the gym for some face-to-face training, when I assess them, are restricted overhead. This is down to a number of things. It's down to lifestyle factors like driving, typing, looking at phones and things like that, and just generally not moving enough. And what that leads to is potentially a stiff upper back, so thoracic spine, as well as tightness through the chest, through the lats and so on. What that all adds up to is the inability to get in a good overhead position. Now, doing some sort of pressing overhead should probably be a part of most people's training at some point during the year. And it's something that I try to encourage because we want my athletes to be strong in all different positions. But what to do if you're restricted and you can only get to here, or when you press overhead you have to flare your ribs and arch your lower back, putting pressure on your back. That is where exercise like the Landmine Press comes really valuable. The Landmine Press is going to help you by developing that pressing motion but putting it in a safer plane of motion. By being in front of your body, it requires less mobility because we're going to press here instead of here, and it lets you develop that overhead pressing strength in a safe manner. It's going to be safe for your shoulders and safe on your lower back. There are loads of different ways of actually setting up landmine presses. In this occasion, I've got a proper landmine attachment here that's on the rig. We've also got them attached to squat racks. I'm going to show you at the end of the video a couple of different options for rigging this up. This is obviously the best option and the safest one. Now, what we're going to start with is a half kneeling landmine press with a single arm. You can see a few different things there. First of all, when my right leg is forward, I'm pressing with the left arm and vice versa. The whole time I need to create tension because then I've got a really solid base to push from and to create force. So as I'm in this half kneeling position, I'm squeezing my bum and stomach really hard, and that keeps this flat and this flat. And so I've got a neutral spine throughout the whole thing. That's also going to keep the load off of your lower back. As I press up, I slightly lean in at the top of the motion as well, and that just helps to access the full range of motion that you have got available. Try and move the bar very smoothly, okay, and just pause at the top and pause at the bottom as you learn the exercise. Now, a note on pressing and how far to press. You're going to see a lot of people do this and they just throw it up and then they end up all the way up here, and now your shoulder isn't really in a very good position. It's not that secure, it's not that safe. What we want to be is here. So the shoulder is packed in nicely and now it's rock solid and I can create force and I'm strong. Okay, so if you can see there, I've got a gap here, whereas when I overextend, I don't have a gap anymore. So I'll show you from the rear. Okay, we want to be in that lower position with the shoulder packed. For many of you, that is going to require a bit of practice, and it's a skill that you need to acquire. But it's a skill that really relates to a lot of different exercises, from a press up to bench press and any sort of pressing, and even rows and things as well. The start position for a row isn't there, it's there. So the same principles apply across all the different ones. Right, I'm going to show you a couple of different options now. So the first option I showed you there was a tall kneeling single arm press. So I'm on both knees, and the key here is I've really got to squeeze my hips underneath and keep tight here, because that is going to be a harder position on your lower back and on your core. So you really need to brace hard as you press. And it is a very good core exercise because your whole body's trying to twist and you are going to resist it. Your body is going to stay completely still while you do the landmine press. The second option there is the same position in that tall kneeling, but with two hands pressing up there. All the same things apply, except obviously with two hands you're going to be shifting a lot of load, so it becomes a very hard exercise on your bum and on your core, basically your abs. So make sure that you're really braced hard, and each set all I do is just reverse the hand position, because it can be easy for your dominant arm, for me my right, to just really get on the end of the bar and do most of the work, when what we want is both arms to be working hard. The first exercise I showed you there were all based on the floor, all in the kneeling or tall kneeling or half kneeling positions. So we can also do some work standing up, and the same principles apply. We can go in a square stance with my feet level in an athletic position, or we can go in a split stance, 1 foot forward and 1 foot back. All of those variations, you've got to stay braced, which is something I'm always going on about, okay? It's all very well getting a big weight and getting it up there, but if you go into massive extension and arch of your lower back and your ribs are flaring out, then you're just not strong enough to handle that weight. And you need to work on your control and work on your core strength. And that is then going to transfer to your athletic ability when you go forward and do your sport. It's also going to help to keep you injury-free whilst you do these exercises. It's the same with any overhead pressing. Whenever we go overhead, it puts a massive demand on your core. If you're feeling it on the lower back, then you need to reduce the weights, look at your technique, look at your mobility, and probably increase your core strength as well in order to press overhead safely, which should always be the priority above big weights and putting it on the Instagram and stuff like that. Now, all of what I've shown you so far has been very controlled, thinking more about getting some work into the shoulders and also building up some strength. Although I've only got 5 kilos on the bar, you know, you can work these in like 3 to 5 rep range to really develop strength. You could do 5 reps, grind them out and get a real strong strength stimulus. We can also use this though for a power stimulus and get a whole body training effect. And in fact, using the landmine attachment is a really safe way to do this compared to traditional things that you see a lot of programs doing, where they're doing thrusters with barbells and with dumbbells and kettlebells and things like that, which are fine. They're great exercises, but only and only if you've got the overhead mobility to get there. You know, if you can't organise your spine and pelvis so it's flat, so it's braced, with your arm here making a straight line, if you can't do that, then you've got no business doing barbell, kettlebell, dumbbell, thrusters, push press, snatches and things like that, because you're just going to wreck your shoulders or your lower back. You can see there 2 variations of power-based exercise using the landmine attachment and the landmine technique basically. Split stance, single arm, bang, pop it up. Again, the power comes from the legs, comes from the hips, and then it's really finished with the arm drive. But again, what's the point in doing it if when I press, I go in a big arch, or when I load it, my knee collapses inwards because my hips aren't strong enough? You've got to do the foundational work first before you do the exciting and cool power-based work. Same again on the two-handed square stance, bang, pressing overhead. It's all good as long as you can maintain a perfect posture and perfect form without. If you can't, then slow it down. If you can't, then do some accessory work to develop your hip strength, and maybe go back a step and do some more of the strict pressing. And then once you've got that level of proficiency, strength and control, you can then do the power work like this. So I'm going to show you how to rig it up in some different techniques now if you don't have a landmine attachment. As I mentioned at the start, there's different options as well for how you set this up. So if you don't have a landmine attachment, then my preferred option is to use a weight plate, and you basically locate the end of the bar in the middle of it here, and I'll just show you how it pivots round. If you can't get hold of a plate, then I'm not sure where you're training, but just in case you can't, then you can jam it up against the base of a wall or in the corner of a squat rack. Just be prepared for it to do some damage to the paint and the wall, and you might get told off. Not my fault. So I really hope that was all clear and that it makes sense and that you understand why I'm putting this across to you so firmly, okay? Because I see so many people here in the gym and online, and coaches online as well, and they're getting people to do exercises that are just inappropriate for them. If you're restricted overhead, and a lot of you are, I'm afraid, then you need to leave the overhead pressing and work with the landmine attachment instead. If you like this video, then please hit like, hit share, hit subscribe, and help to get it out there, okay? If you share my view on training, or you think that I go about things in the correct way, okay, then tell people about it and help spread the word so that we're not just having gimmicky nonsense and fad training on the internet, okay? We can do better than that if we work together. And if you really like it, then please check out my online program. It's got the complete mountain bike program, both for downhill and trail and enduro, and the complete motocross program. Both available right now and guaranteed to make you ride faster or your money back. Thanks very much.